Hey guys, welcome to Hurting Little Cows. This is a very real, not scripted video tonight. Mark has asked me to do some videos these last couple possible weeks of pregnancy. I'm 37 and a half weeks pregnant right now. And we have had babies this early, and we've had babies come near their due date. So I have a couple weeks possibly left. And he wanted me to start doing some videos every evening to just hopefully be an encouragement to some ladies out there that may be going through similar things in pregnancy, but also so we just have a record as if God blesses us again, what the last couple weeks of pregnancy are like for me. And while we were talking about doing that, it made me realize that I needed to do a video that was kind of a precursor of this video, of the short videos of how I'm feeling each day. We are asked a lot by other Christians why we choose to have the amount of children we have. And the reason we do, there's lots of reasons, but the main reason is God has asked us, commanded us in the Bible to be fruitful and multiply. You can see that in various places in the Bible. And that we are supposed to be raising up arrows to, be flung out into the world to advance God's kingdom. Those are all biblical mandates that are given. When Mark and I first got married, we chose to not have children. We told God, Mark's having some issues. He was having the same neurological issues he's having now. And we chose to be on birth control, saying, God, now's not a good time for us to have children. We were both very baby Christians, and we just decided that we knew more than God and we shouldn't have any kids. Well, we got married in June, and in the very first week of September, I found out I was pregnant with Virginia. The birth control had not worked, and it wasn't because we were using it wrong. It did not work. That happens sometimes. And we were very happy to invite a baby into our home, and there was never a question of not continuing that pregnancy to have an abortion or anything, but it was not something that was in our game plan. And so we went through a really hard first year with having, Nathaniel moved in with us full time at the start. He was 6 at the time. I was pregnant with Virginia. Mark was put out of work. He was having the neurological issues, but in December he was put out of work. I ended up on bed rest for the last 9 weeks of pregnancy. And it was just very, very difficult. God had a plan for it, and God drew Mark and I so close to each other through that year that those lessons were something that were very, very needful. But it was not easy. If you were to ask someone if that was a good year for us to get pregnant, most of the world would have said no. So we have Virginia. We decided to use a different method of birth control because, again, we told God, we're not ready. We can't handle this financially. We can't afford this. And we didn't get pregnant for about 3 years. We then changed our mind, decided that things were looking okay and we could try for another one. We went off the birth control, and almost immediately we were pregnant again. And after about 6 weeks, we lost that baby. I had a miscarriage, and that was a very difficult thing to go through. God taught us so many lessons through that, and by God's grace, we again were built stronger as a couple, but we lost our second baby. So we had told God in the first place with Virginia, we're not ready for kids. God gave us a baby. Then we said, okay, God, our timing's right. Give us a baby. And he did, and then he took that one away. And it really made us realize that God is in charge of our fertility. And we went on to almost immediately after that conceive Naomi. And just for a brief short story of our lives, we had Naomi. 2 years later, a year later, we got pregnant again. That baby was stillborn from an infection that I had that was misdiagnosed, malpractice issue. But that was a blessing. God showed us so many things through that. I would never wish on my worst enemy for them to have a stillbirth and deal with all the issues that go with that. And I was really sick after that, but God had a plan for that. And 7 weeks after that one, we conceived Samuel, which they told us we'd never have children again. So we lost baby Joshua. 7 weeks later, we got pregnant with Samuel, went on to have Samuel, and then went on to have Josiah after that, who ended up having cerebral palsy. They still don't know exactly what happened other than he had a stroke in utero. After Josiah, we had a miscarriage. Again, that was very difficult, losing a baby. And after that was Abigail. 2 years after Abigail, we had Uriah, and here we are. Uriah just turned 2, and we have another baby on the way in just a couple weeks. So that's a very basic story, and I wasn't going to get into all of that. But God is behind babies all the time. And we get asked a lot why we choose to have these children when everything is so difficult in our lives. And things have been difficult, whether Mark's been having these issues, whether Mark's been back at work. There's always times to say, oh, this isn't a good time. Oh, we don't have enough money. Oh, our house isn't big enough. There's always times to say that. But God has mandated us to be fruitful and multiply. He's mandated us to have children. And I don't do this video to make people feel bad who are in different circumstances than we are, but to really search the Bible for what you are doing with your life. That's really what the topic of this was, and then I got into the children and when God gave them to us. But God has asked us in His Word, has told us in His Word to do certain things. There are certain commands that we are to do. And a lot of times people complain that life is hard when they're doing things that are not biblically mandated for them to do. But then question those who are doing things that are biblically mandated, like fighting for a marriage or raising children, having more children, just those different things that are biblically mandated. They'll give them a tough time for what people would see as complaining or whining. And so I'm hoping that these videos that I'll be making over the next few days or weeks until baby's born don't just come off as I'm complaining or whining about the things God has given us to do. But sometimes God gives us really hard tasks that He has told us, you need to do this task. And that is why we continue to just allow God to give us children as He gives us children. But this is more of a examine yourself if you feel somebody's being whiny or complainy in asking for certain prayer requests or asking for, just a shoulder to cry on. Because life can be really hard with the things God gives you to do. And yes, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, but also the church is called to bear one another's burdens and to help each other. And if somebody asks me, how are you feeling right now? My answer is pregnant and uncomfortable, because that's where I am. I'm close to the end of pregnancy, and that's part of the curse that's given in Genesis. There will be pain in childbearing, and I believe that that pain isn't just exclusively your 12 or 24 hours of labor or whatever it is. I think that there's pain that goes along with the pregnancy. There's pain that goes along with watching your children grow up. But the physical pain that a mom goes through just to bring this child onto the earth is a result of the curse. So I'm not trying to be whiny. I'm trying to be real when people ask, so that others can hold me up in prayer and bear our burdens like we're supposed to in the scriptures. But the other thing I wanted to add on this video was just a biblical analysis of your own life. And God asks us to do hard things. I have friends who A lot of it has to do with children, but friends whose kids are going through cancer, friends whose kids are going through seizures and different disabilities, people who are striving so hard to make a marriage work that the rest of the world would say, just let it go. Like, you're not getting what you need out of this. But the Bible doesn't tell us to give up when things get hard. But there's a lot of times that we are making ourselves struggle in ways that are not biblically mandated for us. I'm going to talk about a couple controversial issues, and I'm not thinking of anyone in particular while I'm saying these. This was just something that came up on a Facebook discussion I saw and discussions we've been having in the Bible recently. So please, if you're feeling guilty about these things I'm talking about, I'm not specifically talking to you. I'm just sharing what I feel God would want me to share. But there are a lot of people who, a lot of women who go off to work, and the Bible talks about that being part of the curse for Adam, of working by the sweat of his brow and all of that. But the Bible talks about women being keepers at home. And I know there are some women who have to work, so please don't hear this as negative towards those. I know some single moms who are single, not by their own choice, and they have to do something to help their family. But I'm talking about putting yourself in that position when you have a choice to cut down on the budget, or when you have a choice to move to lower income, to a house that would cost you less of your income. We put ourselves as women sometimes under the headship of another man in our offices or jobs that cause a hardship for our family, a hardship to try to be in both places at once, to have our hearts want to be at home but have to be stuck out in the workforce. And this is very much, I see people posting prayer requests and asking, when they've put themselves in these positions that they don't need to biblically be in. Another one would be somebody who has chosen to get divorced and then remarry and deal with the issues that go with stepkids and things like this. And I'm talking from experience here. Mark was married before me, and from the things that we now see in the Bible, that we didn't see then, but the things we see now, we should not have married. The Bible talks about reconciling the first marriage, and Mark and I should have not been married, and I wouldn't have had to deal with all the step-parent issues and the issues that come with being with someone who's already been married. Yes, it's hard, and now there's no way to go back on it. Like, him divorcing me would not solve this problem, but we didn't need to jump into that marriage. If we had known more, we shouldn't have gotten married. But so many of our churches are fine with the idea of divorce and remarriage, and it's something that biblically there shouldn't happen, and we wouldn't have the issues that we have that make life hard for a Christian because we're choosing to go against what the Bible says. There's a lot of other topics of issues where we get ourselves in trouble from, I don't know, we were talking about it in Bible this morning, and people being a drunkard or people being known as a liar and things like that, which we all know go against the Bible, but we all have different sins that we have to live with consequences of. And so just examining yourself to see if the areas that you're saying, God, life is too hard, this is something I can't do, is it because you are not biblically living the life that God has given you? Supporting people when they need help and when they need prayer. But also, as a church, are we looking at things biblically and giving people wise biblical counsel to keep them from a lot of these burdens? I know I've been told by people multiple times that life would be easier, and this has been Christians, life would be easier if we didn't have so many kids. But biblically, the Bible tells us to be fruitful and multiply, and to raise our kids in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. So that means that I need to allow God to give us children when He chooses to give us children, and that means that we need to homeschool so we can be training our kids. That's for our family. I can't go against that. But if somebody comes to you with counsel of, well, I'm divorced and I have a little kid and I'd like to remarry this person, tell them to reconcile. Tell them to go back to what the Bible says. If somebody comes to you with a question of, I'd like to buy this house but we don't have enough money, don't instruct them to get into debt. Debt's against the Bible. So just, this is a challenge to think of the world, the people you're encountering, whether it be fellow Christians or the world, in a biblical way, and stating whether you think, like, what the Bible says on something, not your feelings, not how you think things should work out, but what God says about those things. And I know it's a very difficult task. I have confronted many people, some who have chosen to not talk to me after the fact because everybody else is encouraging them in an activity that is biblically unwise. Biblically, it is forbidden. And I have called those people out, tried to, in a gentle, loving way, to help them avoid those hardships of the future by going against God's will. And it's very difficult. People don't want to hear it. I know that I don't like to hear things. I don't like to be disciplined. It's never fun at the time, but to be able to look back and say, God, thank you for putting that person in my life who helped me to see what the Bible really says about that. Because as churches, a lot of times we don't exhort and correct each other in biblical knowledge. So it's just a challenge to everybody to be more in the Word so that we can be seeing what we should be instructing both of ourselves, our children, and other Christians, to just be able to be following what God would have us to do. So thank you for watching this video. I hope you join us for some daily updates till this baby comes. Maybe that'll be just a few, and maybe that'll be a lot. I'm not sure. But right now, we had a quick update. We had an appointment today. He's seeming happy in there. Everything is going well as far as my body handling the pregnancy okay. And even some questions we had raised of some symptoms I was having, turned out that the blood work all came out okay, and they aren't issues that we have to worry about delivering early for. So baby's doing good, and I'm doing good, and just trying to get the rest I need as my body gears up towards labor. I usually have many contractions at this point, some stronger than others, and so just trying to decide when is real timing wise. But Mom is now home. My mom's been out of town, and she's now home, so that makes it easier. She's right in the backyard to be able to call if I need a helping hand watching kids. And so, yeah, hopefully he stays in there a little bit longer to grow as big as he needs to get before he comes on out. But we will have another update hopefully tomorrow. Thanks for joining us.